The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf.
We've managed to secure, as in Blockmate has secured basically land right opposite a substation in Wyoming, and that's basically up to 200 megawatts.
All right, welcome back inside our Proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Domenic Carosa. He is the chairman of Blockmate Ventures. And Domenic, it's good to see you again. How are you?
Fantastic. Great to be back on the program, Steve.
Yeah, good to talk to you. It's been a little while since I've had a chance to talk to you, so I thought I'd get a bit of an update on where things are at. I know that the company's been really busy behind the scenes, and more importantly, in Wyoming, and you've got some opportunities there as far as AI is concerned. So let's take a step back and just talk to people a little bit about this move for the company.
Absolutely. We know that there's a big demand for AI, and what that means is there's a big demand for AI data centers and hence power. And so we've managed to secure, as in Blockmate has secured basically land right opposite a substation in Wyoming, and that's basically up to 200 megawatts. When we originally acquired the land, our intention was Bitcoin mining, but as we continue to work through the process and discussions with the power utility, our view is that the better result for shareholders is to move that site into the AI space, and hence we've started providing the updates to the market, including one today, and so there's a few initiatives underway, and it's a big project, but one that I think can create a lot of value for shareholders.
Yeah, I want to deal with it in two parts. One is you're dealing with a lot of people right now, a number of interested parties that may be interested in what you're doing. And in fact, you're going to be in a conference in France next week to sort of talk to more people about that. So there's obviously some great interest there, and that's important going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And as I've spoken to a number of shareholders, and what I say is, patience is really key. We're dealing with some of the larger hyperscalers, and we're dealing with ultimately some of the big groups that a lot of shareholders would have heard about. Obviously, I can't mention the names, but basically I dream about them at night. So there's some of the big groups out there, and what I guess what's really important is, we know AI is growing as a theme, and there's a real big demand for land next to power stations or substations, and that's just purely because you need power. You need power to run AI, and that's why we saw this opportunity. Over 12 months ago, we've secured it. We're now in the process. We're actually just about to lock in an engineering firm to increase the addressable area and zoning of the site, which ultimately means that the more that we get rezoned, the higher value that property will become. And the conference in France, we've got a number of investor meetings as well as partner meetings. And our objective is obviously to work with and partner with some groups that have already been there and done this before, and can actually help us accelerate what we're trying to achieve in Wyoming.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that the work that's going on the ground as well in Wyoming, and that's, dealing with cities and permits and all that kind of stuff, just normal stuff that you would have to go through.
Absolutely. In terms of, part of the land is already zoned industrial. We're trying to increase that particular footprint, and then obviously get the appropriate permits for, data center use as well. So far the feedback has been very positive, but as you know, it's a process, and we continue to push along the process.
Okay. Real quickly, I also want to ask you, in the news release, you talked about a clarification that you made on your financials, and this is basically an accounting thing. So maybe, but people were a bit confused by it, so I thought I'd give you an opportunity to sort of address it.
Absolutely. So there's a liability, effectively a $6.8 million liability that sits on the Blockmate balance sheet that in effect belongs to Hivello, which is one of our investee companies. I'm not going to spend the next little while going through the accounting standards and the nuances of that. Suffice to say, that is a Hivello liability. It's effectively a safe like a convertible note that will convert into equity. But from an accounting standards perspective, you need to effectively have it on the balance sheet as a liability until you convert it. And that control is ultimately in the hands of Hivello. And I know that that's going to get converted in the next year or two. But what's more important for Blockmate shareholders is it is not a Blockmate liability. It's related to one of our investees. And that's really the main message there.
Yeah, good to get it clarified for sure. Domenic, thanks very much. Enjoy the conference. It's a busy time for you and the company, and appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, Domenic Carosa. He is the chairman of Blockmate Ventures.
The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf. It is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, an offer, or a solicitation to buy or sell any securities. Viewers should conduct their own research and consult a qualified financial advisor before making investment decisions. The views expressed are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Proactive Group Holdings, trading as Proactive Investors, or its affiliates. No responsibility is accepted for any loss arising from reliance on the information presented.